Havoc. This is Havoc's roadmap to success. This is a bully stick. This is a dog bed he doesn't use. I have videos on my website if you want to teach him how to use the dog bed. Go to doggoneproblems.com, click on dog training tips. If you're looking at a laptop, on the right side of the page, there is a search box. If you're looking at a phone, it'll be at the bottom of the page. Second one from the bottom of the page. The bottom of the page is a sign up for our newsletter. Basically, yes, you got the tip of it there, huh? So basically, in this session, the guardian thought it was resource guarding. I think it's just a situation where I think the dog thinks his job to contribute to the group is to be protective or possessive of his human. Now, we have two guardians. One of the guardians joined us about halfway through the session. He was in the kennel for most of the session. We let him in about half an hour after the second guardian arrived. And the second guardian kind of makes the first guardian feel more comfortable. And if you're nervous about your dog, even if your dog's not the reason for it, if you're nervous, you can trigger a response. So one of the things I told the guardian to do, one of the guardians here travels for work, and so I'd set it up that when that guardian is here, they should try to have a guest come over, probably men, because men are more responsive, but I would have women too. And so the dog can practice being around new people and being calm and make that part of the new routine. Is once we've had enough people come over, the dog just has practiced doing that, then the dog's nice and relaxed. Yes, you're really going to town on that thing, aren't you? Okay, so the first thing we talked about was exercise. He gets to play with a Cane Corso at one of the relatives' houses. Problem with that is if that's his chief source of exercise, he's practicing playing, and that's play fighting. Not that he's going to make him aggressive, but it's something that he's not practicing, or he's letting his energy out in kind of not the most productive way. It's good as a supplement, but it shouldn't be the chief source of exercise. So I went over some ways that the dog can get exercise in the house. We have an apartment here, it's a little bit smaller, but one of the things, we have a dead corner right back there. I would recommend, because he likes to play fetch, getting an iFetch. They run Shark Tank. It's a little machine that lets the dog play fetch with itself. Now to do that, what you do is when he brings you over the ball, have a treat and hold the treat over the hole on the iFetch. If the dog drops it and it goes in the hole, I pop the treat in the dog's mouth and I say the word fetch, or, well, I'd probably come up with a different word. I say bucket for my dogs. That's what the thing looked like. But retriever, we'll come up with a funny word. Gymnastics or jazzercise or something like that. And so eventually the dog will realize and will figure out how to put it in there himself. So I would angle it so it's pointing right there, and I put probably a doorstop or something there, so when it shoots it this way, it knocks it around. He never knows which direction it's going to go. So allowing him to play fetch with himself would be a great way to burn some energy. Remember to exercise him before you have guests come over, or to set him up for success. If there's going to be a lot of crazy construction, getting him more exercise that before that day happens, if you can, is a great way to go about it. Other ways of exercising him, playing fetch yourself, trying to throw a laser on the ground, see if he'll like it, as long as he's not hyperventilating and look like he's addicted to crack. Those dogs, you don't want to use it. Not every dog can do it. Because some dogs don't care, they don't want, or can't see it because of the rods and cones in their eyes. Another one we can do is, now because he is reactive, guardian needs to be careful about this, but I have a friend who lives in Playa del Rey, and he lives in an apartment, and it's a giant, huge apartment complex, and he doesn't have a place to run his dog. So he basically got a doorstop. He went to a flight of stairs, and he put it to the doorstop, which is probably not legal, but I'm not a legal person. And so just to stop somebody from coming in, so it didn't, because we don't want him to get startled and respond. And so if somebody does come in, he would stop what he's doing, go take the doorstop out and let the person do it. He's got the dog in a retractable leash, and he shows the dog the treat and then throws it to the bottom of the stairs. The dog runs out and licks it up and comes up with a word. He usually says Mexico, calls the dog back up and gives another one, so calls it Canada. And so this creates a positive association. Let's see if I can get him to drop here. It's like, no, I got the whole thing in my mouth. Mm-hmm. So when he has object in his mouth, when we teach a dog to drop, I just hold the treat in front of their nose and wait for them to drop. And then as soon as they do, then I put the treat in their mouth and then I say the word drop. And so this qualifies, dropping something, I get something better and I get my original stuff back. That's a pretty good deal. That way, if he does steal something you don't want, you say drop, he'll drop it, then you could trade him a bully stick or something like that. And getting him some appropriate chew toys. Dogs, when they're stressed, chew things. And so I'll go back to the stairs here in a second, but I like antlers, I like nylobones, I like real bones, and I like water buffalo horns. You can get those all at the green spot. And so go to the green spot and sock yourself up. Also get a kneecap. Cow knees are my dog's favorite things to do. They also have tracheas and cow cheeks and cow's ears and hoofs and all this different stuff that you think is nasty that your dog will love. So every time a guest comes over, if he gets a high value chew item, only when the guest is here, well, then he starts to look forward to the guest arriving. Now, if he does develop a resource guarding, I went over off camera, but typically the dog gets stiff, it kind of growls and snaps its head around when it's in a resource guarding mode. I don't think from what I'm seeing it's resource guarding. But if he does get like that, then you wouldn't want to pull out a high value item with a guest around. So going back to the stairs, get a little wedge or whatever and just throw it up and down the stairs. That's a very quick way to burn some exercise, burn some energy very efficiently. Maybe spending 5 minutes on the stairs would be equivalent to like a half an hour walk. There you go, buddy. You didn't drop it. You'll give a treat anyways. Getting him enough exercise will help set him up for success, and not getting him enough exercise will amplify the problems he has. So exercise is really best done every about 2 to 4 hours, and shorter segments come. And so what I like the Guardian to do is start an exercise journal, keep it for about a month, write down a new page every day, write down the date at the top, the time and how much exercise, the time and how many up, downs, and stairs, the time and how many fetches, how long the walk was, how many revolutions of the laser, or whatever it is. And then at the end of and also other noteworthy things. He barked, he ate, he didn't eat, or whatever it was. And then write down a letter grade at the end of the day, A through F. If you got anything other than an A, the next day play around with the elements. Give him a couple more repetitions, or if it's a really low grade, instead of going downstairs 3 times a day, maybe do it 4 or 5 times a day. That's passive training, which we'll talk about here in a second. All right, so exercising him will really help a lot. Keeping the exercise journal will help you. You're going to go straight to the horse's mouth, huh? It's empty anyways. I believe I only have one left in there. But that will teach him or help us. The data will help us see. Every time he's reactive, it's when it's been longer than 3 hours since we exercised him, whatever it is. And so eventually that data kind of helps us figure out what he needs. And then we can kind of plan it into our day. We typically have busy schedules where, and that can be a sign of stress, breathing heavy like that suddenly. I don't think it's here now. I think he's just a little excited. But basically, coming up with a schedule, knowing that he needs 5 minutes of exercise 7 times a day, we can plot that into our schedule instead of just trying to do it willy-nilly, and then we get frustrated when it doesn't work out with our schedule. We also talked about rules and structure. One of the rules I suggest the Guardians already had in place, not letting the dogs on the furniture. But the other things we went over, the dog has to sit before we open the door. Remember to double length of time. Go to the door and say sit once, and don't ask him. A lot of people go, can you sit? No, I cannot. So don't ask him. Say sit, 1, 2, 3 in your brain. If he doesn't sit by the time you hit 3, sit down and pull out a magazine, turn your TV on, look at something on your phone. Wait 1 minute before you try again. Next time, wait 2 minutes. Next time, wait 4 minutes. But boy, as soon as his butt hits the ground, open that door as fast as you can. After a while, he'll go sit at the door as his way of saying, I like to go outside. Let me see, when the Guardians are cooking, he should not be in the kitchen. He should not be around them. Right now, he camps out under her chair when she eats. And he's not begging. He's never had people food, but that proximity is still inappropriate. So what I'd like, the Guardian just did a great job of petting with a purpose, which we're going to talk about in a sec. When you're eating, by helping him practice not coming near you while you're eating, helps him practice some self-control and helps, because that's something they know they shouldn't do. Also, when it comes to feeding, it's the most important activity for dogs. Right now, the Guardian's only feeding once a day. I would recommend feeding 2 or 3 times a day. And consistency can be helpful, but just doing it in the morning and the evening is better so they don't spend a good portion of their day hungry and cranky that they're hungry. So put the food down, don't let him eat it, then eat 5 bites of a carrot or a piece of celery, something crunchy, and then give him permission to eat. And when he eats, it takes his first bite for 3 months, say lasagna or pasta, whatever James's favorite food is. And so after a while, that becomes his command word to eat. Every time and that's passive training. But make sure that you eat something first and then he eats after you. And if he walks away with food in his bowl, pick up the bowl, dump it back into the bag, and put the empty bowl back down. It's important to have the bowl back on the floor. And so that way he recognizes it's empty, it's empty, it's empty. Suddenly there's food there. That's a special, rare occurrence. So the more that that might be a day or two, because he also nibbles. The Guardian said he takes in some will walk away. I've had a lot of dogs that learn to not walk away from the bowl, because as soon as I leave the bowl, the food goes away, and then I have to wait till the next meal. My parents had a dog went 4 days, didn't eat until breakfast the 4th day, I should say. So be firm. Remember that the dog, hunger becomes your ally. And you're not saying you can't eat, you're saying you eat the way that I want. A lot of people think this is punishment, but if you have a child, you say, here's your meatloaf, and like, I want pizza. Well, mommy doesn't get up and make pizza. If mommy does get up and make pizza, mommy's going to have a difficult time raising that child. And part of his thing is he thinks he's in charge. And so that's why I think the more that the Guardians can incorporate these rules and act like leaders through their actions, the better. Now, we also went over petting with a purpose and passive training I talked about earlier. Now, the Guardian's, when I asked earlier, he doesn't really do a lot of stuff on command, but she over-loves him, so he doesn't really have that motivation. So I like the Guardian to play a little hard to get. First of all, not petting him unless he does something to earn it. Now, we talked about petting with a purpose and passive training. Petting with the purpose is right now he's actually climbed up on one of his Guardians. He's asking for attention. What the Guardian can do, he can ignore, but right there, go ahead and pet. He sat down. Up and stop petting. So what happened was, I'll describe this off camera. So as soon as he gets down, then you want to reach and start petting. And as soon as the dog jumps up, then we stop petting. So starting and stopping, we call the starting is addition or adding. Stopping is a negative or subtracting. So as soon as the dog starts doing something you don't want, you immediately stop interacting with them. As soon as they start doing something you want, you act with them. So for petting with a purpose, if he jumps up or nudges you, he's telling you what to do. Give him a counter order, tell him to sit. When he sits, pet him under his chin, so you get that nose up. Dogs, when they're proud, their nose is in the air. Pet him under his chin, say the word sit, and then pet him as much or as little as you want. You just have to pet him once to an infinity number of times. So now the dog, right there, pet him and say down. So that's passive training. We'll talk about that in a sec. So when the dog tells us what to do, nothing happens other than we tell it to do something. And if it does it, it gets a reward. If it doesn't, nothing happens. So we're not punishing the dog. We're not correcting the dog. We're just simply motivating the dog to do what we want by giving the attention when it does it. Now, after a while, the dog will start sitting in front of you to prepay for attention. When it does, make sure you do recognize and reward that. Otherwise, they'll go back to jumping up on you. And even if you want to pet the dog, make the dog do something to earn it. Now, the flip side of that is what I call passive training. Passive training is what we just did there, is you wait for the dog to organically offer you behavior on its own. So every time the dog comes to you, pet it and say, come. Every time he sits, pet him and say, sit. Every time he lays down, down or chill or crash or whatever the word is. Every time he takes the first bite of food, picata. Every time he takes the first drink of water, call it wine. Whatever you want to say. And so you come up with these vocabulary terms, which makes it easy for the dog to understand what's going on. I say crash meaning to lay down, flopping on my side, I call that the flop. On the back, I call that belly. And so we have different, and that's an easy way to train. These are the two easiest ways to train your dogs. And if you get in a habit of petting with a purpose and passively training your dog, every time you pet your dog, it becomes a micro dog training session that increases its respect for you, boosts its self-esteem, and helps it practice its desired behavior. It truly becomes a gift, but it'll take you guys about 2 months to get in the habit of doing so. So remember to use those watch words. Paycheck means I suspect you're petting without a purpose. Testify means you're missing an opportunity to recognize him. And then I also say vocabulary. Come. That's passive training right there. For the vocabulary, come up with a list of the official command words. Most of us use so many variants of the word, it's really difficult for the dog. If I've got to remember 100 words, it's a lot harder than remembering 10 words. Come, here, come here, over here boy, dog's name, dog's nickname, tap my thigh, whistle. Now he has got to listen for 10 words instead of all of us just saying come or here. Yes, you're going to try to jump up my face, aren't you, again? Yes. Oh, now he's getting a little bit rowdy. He wants to play. Yes, this is play. It's not aggression. Okay, so let me see. Sit. Very good, sit. Yes. Let me see. What else? We went over a focus exercise. There's a video above for that. I have videos like I said on my website teaching him to go to his dog bed. But because he's a short-haired pitty, so he should like, during the winter, summertime, it might get too hot, but that's where he'll probably lay on the floor in your kitchen. I'm trying to think, is there anything else we want to go over, buddy? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yes, I remember. Okay, so I'm doing this. I'm just basically getting up so that he doesn't have access to jump on my face because he's not aggressive, but he might make a mistake. And I would freak out the Guardian. I would prefer not getting bit in the face. And so we want to shield him and don't put him in situations where he's not prepared for them. So right now, we want to kind of take it easy. When you have your guests come over, don't have your guests get up. Don't have your guests try to interact with them. The guest could have I would give your guests a bunch of treats. And so when he's like, guests come over, man, they're treat delivery people. I don't know why I was biting him before. He's not bitten anyone. But the dog has that positive association. So, and you might want to get something like this so you can have it full of treats. They can clip it to their belt or wherever it is, and they can pull out treats as much as they want. See if I have another one in here for you. We don't, but your mom's going to get up and get the bag. Oh, sit. You can give me that bag right there. Perfect. So, so this way, if he puts his nose in here, I close it. It's got a little clip so you can put it on your belt. And so if the guest comes in and they have treats, he's like, oh, I can smell it on you. You're here to hook me up. And so again, we create that positive association. All right. Let me see. I'm trying to think of other videos. like I said, there's a ton of videos on my website. Let me know. Now, if he's continuing to do this, I'd like to give it about a month, maybe a month and a half. And if you really are focusing on these things, you should see a pretty dramatic improvement pretty quickly. Now, some of it's you're not going to see until we're around people. But remember, we want to, anytime he's reactive, increase the distance until he's reactive. Sometimes you have to go out of his line of sight, around a car or that ginormous white truck out there or whatever it is, and so that he can't see it. And then do the focus exercise and help him practice that focus. But if in 2 months, if he's still being reactive like this, let us know. We might set up a behavior adjustment or a BAT training session to work on this. But I mean, from what you described and the way we're interacting with him, the guardian didn't know if we'd be able to let him out without a muzzle. And he's a sweetheart. I think he's just confused. And so once the guardian starts petting with a purpose, passively training, enforcing rules, increasing his exercise, I think he's going to start coming around pretty quickly, and his behavior's going to change pretty quick. All right, come here one more time, buddy. I want you to come over here. Let's everybody see how handsome you are, because you're a good-looking pitty. Taylor Francis, my puppy class instructor, is going to be very mad because she loves pits and she thinks he's so handsome. All right, well, this is Havoc, and this is Havoc's roadmap to success. That's a loud chew there, buddy. Remember, everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it.